Well, my friends, we're asked once again to be good stewards of God's money, of God's resources. And I wonder how many of us really know the value even of small things. Let's say something as small as $10. Well, John and Martha regularly went to the state fair, and John always looked longingly at an antique biplane and always said to Martha, "Martha, I'd like to go for a ride on that biplane." And Martha would always say to John, "John, that ride costs $10, and $10 is $10. Well, this all went on for years, and finally, one year, they went to the state fair, and John said, "Martha, look, I'm almost 81 years old. It's going to be too late for me to ride that airplane. I want to ride it this year." And Martha said, "John, that ride still costs $10, and $10 is $10. Well, the pilot overheard this, and he said to the two of them, "I'll take both of you up, and I'll give you a free ride as long as neither of you makes a sound." And so they agreed, and up they went, and the pilot tried every loop-the-loop and every other trick that he could come up with to get them to make a sound, and nothing happened. So he finally brought the plane to a landing and turned around and said to John, "John, I tried everything I had to make you guys yell out, but you stayed silent." And John said, "Yeah, well, I was thinking of saying something when Martha dropped out of the plane, but $10 is $10 after all." My friends, in our readings this morning, both the prophet Amos in the first reading and Jesus in our gospel has something to say about those $10. So let's take a look at the prophet Amos. Amos tells us that $10 isn't worth a plugged nickel if it's got at the expense of someone who is more needy than us. Amos was kind of the prophet of social justice, and when he went to Jerusalem, he noticed that all of the more wealthy individuals in the city looked with disdain on those who were poor, especially those coming in from the country. And the merchants in particular took every opportunity they had to mess around with the measuring scales and put them to the disadvantage of their customers. And they would even take the droppings from the barnyard and put it into the sacks of flour, the sacks of wheat, so that they weighed more and they could charge more. Isn't the Sabbath over yet so that we can continue to cheat everybody who comes to us? They were that desperate, and Amos came down on them with both feet. God does not forget any of these things. It makes us stop and think to ourselves. I was reading this earlier in the week, and I got a little bit uncomfortable because we always hear about some of the cutbacks in school programs in Harford County, and I was thinking, gosh, what if some poor kid goes to school on Monday morning and can't have a hot lunch, the only hot meal he may have that day, because I was kind of flamboyant earlier in the year with my tax deductions, and the $10 I saved on my taxes kind of filtered on down, trickled down, and ended up with the cancellation of a program that was beneficial and much needed by him. God does not forget. God does not forget. But Jesus, on the other hand, tells us how $10 can really be worth $10. And he does it in the most ironic way by lifting up, for example, a dishonest steward who we think is cheating his master. Well, let's take a look at what the dishonest steward is doing. Scholars of the time tell us that a manager like that, in sending out bills to his master's debtors, would write in his own fee, or write in a cut for himself. And so when the master fires the steward, or is about to fire the steward, he commends the steward for taking very, very prudent action, for coming to action in the face of a crisis. And he does that by taking his own cut and subtracting it from the promissory notes of each of his master's debtors. And in doing that, he's spending money to what? He's purchasing, if you will, an obligation on the part of someone else. We might call it, buying friendship, but after all, that buying of that obligation could, when those individuals take him into their homes, turn into a true friendship, into a true relationship, in which, on the human level, that individual meets God. And so that steward really is spending his money not on something that's temporary and material, but he's spending his money on something that is intangible, that lasts forever. Let's take another look at this. I was reading a little bit earlier in the week about a family of 6, 4 kids and 2 parents, who have decided that they're going to go and see the world. And basically, it came down to them staying in any one place for no more than 3 months. The parents would take on a temporary job. The kids would all be homeschooled, but they would have these experiences with the various cultures in which they lived. And when they were being interviewed, they said, yeah, look, all of the material things that we could have had, the big house, the cars and whatnot, fancy toys for the kids, are all external to us. They're outside of ourselves. They could be lost. They could be forgotten. They could go out of favor and out of interest. But what we are building up in this period of our lives is something that is intangible. It's the experience of different cultures, the experience of different friendships, different ways of worshiping the Lord, all the different things that go along with a world trip on that scale. And so we are building for ourselves things that are not exterior, but things that are within us, things that define us, things that will become our personalities. And that you cannot take away. Just like you can't take away an education, you cannot take those away from us. And we can carry those with us beyond. My friends, this day, this week, let's take a look at the inventory that the Lord has given us and ask the very, very simple question, can I take it with me? Can I take with me those $10? Absolutely not. But we can take with us what the $10 could be used for the building of a friendship, of an individual who's in need, a building of a friendship, a building of a relationship, and again, through that relationship, finding a connection with Jesus Christ himself. And so may we all be good shepherds of all the resources that are given to us, and ask that question. Can it be internalized? Can it go with me? And can I take it with me upon the moment I meet the Lord?